Today, I'm making a fun brunch meant for having people over on the weekends with chicken chilaquiles. Now, chilaquiles consist of tortillas, corn tortillas. Now, they're either fried or baked, and then they're added to a homemade chili sauce made with a bunch of chilies. Guajillos are most traditional, with some fresh chilies too, some poblanos and jalapenos. And you serve it for brunch. Sometimes you throw eggs on it. Today, we're making chicken chilaquiles, which are my personal favorite. So we're gonna get started with the corn tortillas. So these are little corn tortillas. I got 16 of them. And we're gonna cut them into chips. Now, I've seen recipes that just call for tortilla chips or baked tortilla chips. They just taste stale to me. The good tortillas are the highlight of this recipe. So buy them fresh, toast them yourself. So I'm just cutting them into wedges that replicate tortilla chips. Now we're gonna toast them in a hot oven over 2 baking sheets. I'll put half on one, the other's on the other. All right, now we're gonna drizzle them with a little bit of oil. We want about 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil per tray. All right, and we're gonna have some salt to each tray as well. Toss them around, make sure they're nice and evenly coated. Then you just wanna spread them out so they toast evenly. And they take about 20 minutes or so in the oven. 2 trays, 2 oven racks, upper and lower middle rack. And you're gonna switch and rotate the trays halfway through. And I have to say, from much experience, these tortillas go from raw to burned in a nanosecond. So you can walk away for the first few minutes, but then make sure you're back at the stove watching them toast for the last minute or two. All right, spread them out as good as you can into a 425-degree oven. Again, that takes about 20 minutes. Okay, while those tortillas are crisping up in the oven, it's time to make the sauce. So the base of this sauce is gonna be guajillo chilies. Now these are dried chilies. They have a lovely flavor. They're not very spicy, sort of sun-dried tomatoes, a little raisiny. And when you buy them, they're usually sold in bags like this. You wanna look for chilies that are flexible. Let me show you what I mean. See how these are nice and flexible? If you find them and they're very brittle, it just means they're old and they're not gonna have as much flavor. So we're gonna need 5 of these chilies. This guy's a little on the small side, so I'm gonna use 2 for him. All right, so to get these chilies ready for the sauce, we're gonna take the stems out just by ripping them off. Shake out the seeds. You can kind of tear up the side of the chili, see if there's any seeds hiding in the very tip. Then we're just gonna tear it into big pieces. Eventually the sauce is going in the blender, so you don't have to be precise here. Now, if you can't find guajillo chilies, you could substitute New Mexican or even Anaheim dried chilies, but the guajillo are just perfect here. They're rounder, sort of that sun-dried tomato flavor, as I mentioned. It's really good in the sauce. Now, if you're sensitive to chilies, don't be afraid to wear gloves to do this. Now, these chilies aren't spicy, but there is a little capsaicin, and it could bother your skin if you're sensitive. I'm sort of impervious to capsaicin and hot chilies at this point, so I don't need them. And in fact, when you get in the habit of toasting your own chilies like this, it's a great way if you're making chili or anything that calls for chili powder, because essentially we're making our own guajillo chili powder here. And when you use good dried chilies, it just adds a depth of flavor that you can't get from a pre-ground powder. Last chili here. Some seeds are okay. Few always seem to make it in the sauce. Before we grind these chilies into a powder, we're gonna toast them in the skillet. Medium heat, takes about 5 or so minutes, and they're gonna get really fragrant and brittle. Just gonna add them right to a dry skillet. Medium heat, again, this takes around 5 minutes. They're gonna get brittle and you're really gonna smell them. Especially if you start to cough or sneeze, that is a good sign that the chilies are nicely toasted. Oh, and when you start to see smoke, you see that little bit of smoke starting to come out of the pan, that's a good sign, time to turn the pan down, and you just don't have much longer to go, maybe about 30 seconds. And this is what I meant by if you're coughing or sneezing, because this is where you get the aroma. I've been known to start sneezing right about now. So once you start sneezing, about 30 seconds. The smell is wonderful though. That's the great thing about cast iron. You can really heat it up over fairly high heat, get it good and hot, and the surface can really handle it. Sometimes you can even draw in the residue that's left. Hello, little buddy for later. All right, these chilies are ready to be ground into a powder. So into the blender the chilies go, and actually we're gonna build the whole sauce in the blender. Just gonna start with these dried chilies, get them ground up first. And if you've never done this, it's really quite fun. I didn't start making my own chili powder until I started working at America's Test Kitchen. We started doing it about 15 years ago. It is a game changer. It's incredibly easy, and that's how you get really authentic tasting Mexican food. All right, so here we're gonna grind these up. You can see how nice and dry they are. They grind up really nicely. It's fun, isn't it? This whole recipe is fun. All right. You can see that lovely powder. Now we're going to start to add the other ingredients to turn it into a sauce. So this is the dried chilies. Now we're going to add some fresh chilies. This is 1 chopped jalapeno and 1 chopped poblano. Now the jalapeno obviously has some heat. The poblano just adds some good green grassy flavor and some bulk. That was 1 of each. We're going to add 3/4 of a cup of chopped onion, 3 cloves of garlic that we already chopped up. We're gonna add some fresh cilantro. So this is 8 sprigs of cilantro. Stems are welcome in this sauce. They have a lovely sweet flavor. Just wanna give it a rough chop before you put it into the blender. There we go, into the blender it goes. And last, we're gonna add some tomatoes. This is a big old can, 28-ounce can of peeled tomatoes with their juice. It all goes right into the blender. All right. Last, we're going to add some salt. We need 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. There we go. Now we're just going to blend it till it's nice and smooth and makes a lovely chili sauce. All right, let's take a look. Now, depending on your blender, it could take anywhere from 30 seconds to 1.5 minutes. What you really want is a super smooth sauce. Yeah, just like that. Nice and smooth, no big chunks of anything left. All right, so we're gonna make sure I get all that chili powder. There's a little bit stuck in this lid here. I wanna make it all into the sauce. All right, gonna put this back into the pan, the same pan that we used to toast the chilies. Oh, you can see that pan is still hot, left over from the toasted chilies. Already starting to cook the sauce. You can smell the fresh chilies and those toasted guajillos. Oh, delicious. To this, we're gonna add 1.5 cups of chicken broth. Now we're gonna bring this to a simmer because I mentioned we're making chicken chilaquiles, and I'm actually gonna poach the chicken right in the sauce. So here is the chicken that's ready to be poached in the sauce. Now it's 1.5 pounds of chicken breasts, and over the years, I found that people really like chicken breasts in this recipe, but chicken thighs would also work as long as you use 1.5 pounds. Now the thing about boneless chicken breasts is they're really thick on one end and thin on the other. So if you want them to cook at the same rate, especially in the sauce, you just wanna give the thick end a quick pound. All right, our sauce is at a simmer. Time to slip the chicken in. All right, now these will need to cook about 15 minutes. You're looking for an internal temperature on the chicken to be about 160. I'm gonna lower the heat. You just want a bare simmer here. We're gonna put the lid on, let it cook under the cover. Now halfway through, I am gonna flip the chicken over just to make sure it cooks evenly. Hey there, I hope you're enjoying this video. Did you know that you can stream every season of your favorite shows from America's Test Kitchen anywhere, anytime, and ad-free? With an all-access digital membership, you can unlock thousands of recipes that have been rigorously tested by our experts. Not to mention unbiased equipment and ingredient reviews, available at home or on the go with our mobile app. Visit cookscountry.com to start your free trial. All right, the chicken has been cooking for a little bit here. Time to take its temperature. Again, we're looking for 160. Perfect. All right, so taking it out of the sauce, we're gonna let it cool a little bit before we shred it. Now I'm gonna continue to simmer the sauce because you want it to thicken up a little bit. It should measure around 4 cups before you add the tortillas. Time to shred the chicken. And remember, I put the chicken in a bowl to contain the juices. This juice is gonna go back into the sauce. All right, so back to the chicken. Using 2 forks, just want to start shredding the meat. I like some biggish chunks. I don't like it too finely shredded, so I like to be able to taste the chicken around the pieces of tortilla in the sauce. Now, if you're doing this and you're having people over, you can easily make the sauce and shred this chicken ahead of time. You just store them separately, and then you bring the sauce back to a simmer before you add the chicken and you're ready to go. All right, so this chicken goes back into the simmering sauce. We're gonna let it heat up for a few minutes. All right. All right, we're gonna let that chicken heat through for just a minute or two. And now here are the tortilla chips that I toasted in the oven. Let them cool. You can see they get a variety of colors, and that's okay. Sometimes I like these dark ones. I think it adds a nice deeper flavor, but the range of color is fine. You just wanna make sure that they're absolutely crisp. All right, so we're gonna stir these into this sauce. I'm just gonna let them sit in that sauce for about 2 minutes, but if you like a softer texture, you could leave them in there up to 5 minutes. Off heat under the lid. Oh, this is when you can start to get excited. So you really wanna make sure you stir them in completely. You wanna coat them all evenly with sauce. Lid goes on. You can let them sit. Now I'm just gonna clean up right before we eat. All right, just gonna finish prepping a few garnishes that go on top of the chilaquiles. Some fresh cilantro is great. Oh, the smell is wonderful. I put cilantro on everything. Even if you think it shouldn't have cilantro on it, I put cilantro on it. It's something on the shopping list in my house every week. Also gonna cut up some fresh avocado. Ooh, that's a good one. Gotta be careful when you're doing this not to go through the skin of the avocado and cut your hand. Done that before. All right, we'll scoop that right on top of the chilaquiles, which I think are perfectly done now. Oh. Oh, the smell, because now it smells like those corn tortillas that have mixed with that beautiful chili sauce. Now garnishing this is half the fun. I actually like to serve it in a pretty cast iron dish because it gets all these garnishes. The avocado right on top. All right, we have some chopped white onion, just a little bit. Now, if you're scared of raw white onion, I don't blame you. I know a lot of people who don't like it. Scallions would be good here, or you could give the onion a rinse. It gets rid of some of those harsher flavors, and you wind up with a nice sweet flavor. So just a quarter cup of onion, some queso fresco, some sliced radishes, a little bit of chopped cilantro, and some lime wedges. And that's it. I know it didn't start out as a looker, but with all the garnishes, it really does come across. But the flavor of the chips and the sauce can't be beat. So to serve it, kind of have a little, you could have some Mexican crema, or you could loosen up a little sour cream with lime juice is what I did here. And of course, you have to serve chilaquiles with some hot sauce. All right, let's dig in. Supposed to serve, 4 to 6 people, or it serves me and Ian. We have definitely, on a hungry Sunday, housed nearly this whole thing. It has a flavor that has the dried, sort of sun-dried tomato, but also the grassiness of the poblano and the tender chicken, and the texture of those tortillas are perfection. Thanks for watching. What'd you think? Leave a comment below and let me know what you're excited to cook this week. You can get today's recipes and more for free at our website.